PNGDF helping with city duties. Dusk to dawn curfew. And rations for flood-stricken Gulf.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Saturday's news. The Papua New Guinea Defence Force will assist police to enforce the curfew in Central Province and NCD in the next 14 days. This is to ensure the SOE orders issued by the controller are being followed as part of the government's effort to contain the spread of COVID-19. In a small parade yesterday to signify the start of the curfew, Assistant Commissioner NCD and Central Anthony Wagambi Jr. urged the police and defence personnel to serve the country with pride.
The police curfew, which started yesterday, will continue until the end of this month. The curfew starts at 9 p.m. and ends at 6 a.m. daily, as ordered by the State of Emergency Controller. During this time, people are not allowed to leave their homes unless there is an emergency. And to ensure the curfew is enforced in NCD and Central Province, the PNG Defence Force has stepped in to assist the police.
Everybody in the uniform you wear, the green uniform you wear, the blue uniform you wear, these uniforms have a legacy. We have a legacy to protect. Protect the pride of those uniforms.
In a small parade with Defence Force and police personnel yesterday, Assistant Commissioner NCD and Central Anthony Wagambi Jr. challenged them to serve with pride. He said this operation is not like any other police and Defence Force operations, but it is to ensure their families are safe from the virus.
And I must make it clear, this is a fight for your own families, for your own well-being. And fight for many people, for man, for mama, we are all in it in the front line.
ACP Wagambi further stressed on personal protective equipment for police and soldiers. He said PPEs will be made available for them. However, they must practice social distancing. And to ensure social distancing are being practiced, they will be allowed to patrol with only 4 or 5 officers in a vehicle.
Social distancing, which means that police vehicles will not carry density, you will not carry 10 or 8 or 9 men anymore. You will cut down to 5 or 4 if there's a need.
Following allegations of police misconduct at roadblocks and selling buai at police barracks, the Assistant Commissioner further encouraged them to be honest in their job. He said so far several officers have been suspended for misconduct and there are investigations into allegations of police abuse.
Rules are there to protect us. Let's enforce it and let's do it ourselves. Time you round, working my work, confiscate him or something, no can kiss him, Salim can. That is unethical. Too many complaints.
Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
Soldiers from the 1st Royal Pacific Islands Regiment will provide the additional support to police in NCD. These members of the Joint Security Task Force will be implementing the dusk to dawn curfew in the nation's capital. The step up in security comes at a time least expected when a person of interest who was supposed to be self-isolating breached security and was reporting for work at the National Operations Centre or NOC 19.
Based on emergency orders from the SOE controller, which was released on Thursday, the dusk to dawn curfew will come into effect every night for the next 14 days from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning. Under the NCD Commission Task Force team set up to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, these curfews are expected to limit the movement of people within the nation's capital. As per emergency orders issued by the SOE controller, David Manning, only critical staff from the National Operations Centre or NOC 19 will be allowed point A to B movement, which is from their point of residence to NOC 19 and back. While NCD goes into a lockdown, the SOE controller has allowed for essential services like health and bank and shops to remain open, while public gatherings and access to public places like markets and main bus stops have been restricted. For air travel, only commercial flights that are approved by the SOE controller will continue to operate. However, flights into provinces considered hotspot like East and West Sepik, Western and East New Britain will remain suspended. Meanwhile, following the first positive COVID-19 case reported in NCD, over 200 frontliners, including media personnel, security officers and health workers working from NOC 19 are now in self-quarantine after they were directed to have their samples taken on Thursday and yesterday. It has been 48 hours since the government has confirmed 5 new COVID-19 cases in the country. However, for NCD, it is still not clear as to why the 40-year-old woman who tested positive was reporting to work at Morauta House, the heart of the government setup to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic in Papua New Guinea, especially after she was tested for COVID-19 and was supposed to be in self-quarantine. While the government is expected to provide an explanation on her actions, those frontliners who are now in self-quarantine are expecting their results in the coming days. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
60 troops from the Papua New Guinea Defence Force will be leaving for Kikori in the Gulf province this afternoon on 2 missions to assist the people who are affected by floods and to respond to COVID-19 operations in the province. With support from the Australian Defence Force and the Gulf provincial government, the troops will be in the province for 28 days.
Gulf province in Papua New Guinea is currently facing a natural disaster. The province has experienced flooding for so long that most of its food crops are underwater, leaving more than 60,000 locals struggling to sustain a living. With coronavirus cases rising slowly in the country, provinces like Gulf will be affected, but thanks to the PNGDF and Gulf provincial government, with its partners like Kumul Consolidate Holdings, food rations and PPEs will be made available to the province.
The food supplies you see is about 90 tons or 92 tons of that. Rice and salt is from the provincial government itself. And then you have the PPEs coming from Kumul Consolidated Holdings. And I want to thank Mr. Toreka, the board and the minister for making a commitment to assist our troops and assist our frontline staff on the ground in the province. So.
The Papua New Guinea Defence Force chartered ship Bosavi was loaded with 90 tons of rice. This should be shipped to the 16 villages affected in both Paimuru and east of Kerama town. Other food rations will be delivered in the next few weeks.
I've opened over the last 2 weeks a couple of new health centres that we've completed. I opened 2 the previous week, and I will be opening 3 more next week all along the province. There'll be one in Baimuru, one at Ihu, one at Kukipi. We've opened Tarapo, and we've opened a ward at Malalawa. So all those facilities or beds that will be made available will, of course, contribute to our efforts to try and isolate and quarantine cases that do happen in the province.
The province is preparing for COVID-19. Gulf Provincial Health Authority and the provincial government have already begun construction for a quarantine facility in the Gulf province. It is expected to have 40 beds, an ICU unit and other testing rooms. The province will also be the first province in Papua New Guinea to receive PPEs from Kumul Consolidate Holdings. The PPEs will be shipped to the province this afternoon.
All the equipment, the PPE supplies are ready, and we will be shipping them out through Air Niugini, and Post PNG that's one of our state-owned entities, will help us get there. But this is a good opportunity. I think the Gulf governor has shown at least a little bit of leadership and initiative in moving very quickly, and so we were quite prepared because we had his supplies ready. So, but the rest will get there probably next week and the week after as well.
PNGDF Commander Brigadier General Gilbert Toropo says PNGDF is prepared to support the Gulf Province as part of the COVID-19 operations and also reinforcement support. Commander Toropo says their important operation will be the COVID-19 operation, where they will see if there are any illegal people from Indonesia coming into PNG borders.
PNG Defence Force is prepared to support our people in the Gulf as part of the COVID-19 operations, but also reinforce support to the natural disaster that has happened in the Gulf province. This is only to Gulf, but there will also be more troops deploying to Daru and Western Province. We already have 120 in Western Province. That's the land forces, but it will be reinforced by maritime forces.
Michelle Stephen, National EMTV News.
Octady Mine CEO Peter Graham says the mine will continue operations as long as it's safe and economical to do so. This comes after the country announced new COVID-19 cases, of which 3 were from border villages near the mine's bigger dredging project in the Western Province. Mr. Graham says none of the 3 cases are employees or contractors of OTML. He says the company's main priority at the moment is the health and safety of its employees, contractors and communities. Biggar and Kiunga are on lockdown and restrictions are being applied to the general public for a period to be determined, as contact tracing and additional testing in the local villages will inform this decision. OTML understands that a team from the National Department of Health is on the ground to do assessments and conduct contact tracing. City Pharmacy Limited has stepped in to assist people with disabilities with over 20,000 kina worth of food rations for this year. The first quarter rations were delivered to Cheshire Home recently. CPL Foundation Manager Oti Lasanga Vibao said it is their corporate responsibility to help people with special needs.
These food rations come in 4 quarters with 5,000 kina worth of food rations for each quarter. The first quarter rations were delivered to staffs and residents of the Cheshire Disability Centre recently. This donation will ensure people with special needs eat 3 times a day.
We can keep people here, but as long as we have some food to feed them. At the end of the day, people need to be satisfied, having a good meal, and so that also helps them to empower them in those needs that they have. You know, without good meals, people won't be, they'll be hungry, and then if they are sick, they continue to get more sick.
This is not the first time CPL has assisted people with special needs. The company has supported Cheshire Disability Services in other activities as well, and they will continue to do so as part of their corporate responsibility.
CPL Group, as we all know, through its foundation, which is more like a vehicle that drives all our programs, groups programs. And so why we are here today is because, these are trying times and challenging times. And we know that institutions like Cheshire Home need people like us.
Cheshire Disability Services accommodates people with special needs, and with the state of emergency affecting businesses in the country, it has also affected their operations. According to General Manager Bernard Ayaka, most of their source of revenue has been affected, and this donation is timely as food is what the centre needs to boost the immunity of PWDs.
Power, water, that is no longer going on. We know of businesses that somehow have scaled down and their supplies have also gone down. And yet this is the time that we need these people to also have an enhanced feeding to boost their immune system, which is conducive or necessary for fighting the COVID in case they have it.
PWDs need 24 hours care, and food is not their only challenge. They also need clean water, electricity and medication.
Besides the food supplies, we have things like water, medical supplies, power, and all those necessities that constitute or are needed in an essential health service providing facility. So all those are areas where the need is critical.
The General Manager thanked CPL for their kind gestures and called on other corporate entities and the government to do the same.
A letter to the government to help us with some funding as part of essential service provider. And I know so much has been happening. So far we have not received any response, but we are hoping that the government, because this is a work that is supposed to be done by the government and should not just be left for corporate partners like City Pharmacy and all others.
Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
The community along Horse Camp Sabama in Moresby South has set up checkpoints amid the COVID-19 lockdown in Port Moresby. The men manning the checkpoints say it is a preemptive measure to ensure the safety of the community at large.
Youths at Joyce Bay Zone 4 area in Moresby South have taken the initiative backed by their community to have checkpoints at each of the junctions along the Horse Camp area, Sabama. Armed with masks and their own mixture of sanitizer, the young men are sanitizing anyone entering into the residential areas, keeping with hygiene practices. Vehicles are also being stopped and questioned on their purpose of visit before directed into the residential area. All this in the name of COVID-19.
Come up in awareness inside the community blompla. So we put him roadblock law. All man must come safely inside the community blompla. So one more car stop outside, he comes inside, we check in. All car lo here straight, or give him access law lo come inside. Or car outside, and stop him, talk him all man lo come, go look him all one talk blow lo same.
Spokesman of the group, Myri Pai, says it is a precautionary measure for the community. The men have been rewarded masks by NCDC, with some procuring their own. For what little they have, they concoction their own blend of sanitizer with soap and the popular disinfectant Dettol.
All NCD come, supply me plate slow, sample lily call mask, sample nogad, sample oliet, all stop lo house blow, all ksim logan, one half, all ksim logan, and all verim na. Me pla support me play to sem lo, side lo safety lo me pla. So me pla no good lo proper all something lo sanap silakain. So one all Dettols me pla buy him logan, me pla mix him. One time all soaps, so me can use him lo spray him lo hand blow man.
A big community with each of the men working shift hours.
So as the night me finalize him all figures blow me come one time all 50 men power. So I'm talk 25 lo night, 25 lo sun.
Their efforts commended by the police on patrol during the curfew yesterday.
All policeman to come, PPC lo policeman to come look me plan talk save lo me same. Thank you through lo community work people working. So me proud we awesome. Me plus like all people must stop safe inside the community
Under the beating heat of Port Moresby, the youth stand in solitude, with the community helping in kind. The young men are hopeful that their member will take heed of their WhatsApp message.
All money come, go come. One em lili help him all give me come through lo lili call scone lili call wara lo sanap. So me talk thank you aste tu me WhatsApp go lo minister Justin Chichanko em away lo disla. So blame waiting call blame lo come inside lo community lo briefing me one em something come up lo here.
Friedrich Sukina National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News. In the news ahead, NID officers to continue rollout exercise. More about detailed standard operating procedures for COVID-19 and Cyclone Harold's devastation in the Pacific. Those stories when we come back. Welcome back. NID officers will be deployed to various districts to ensure the rollout of NID continues. National Planning Minister Sam Bassel said they are aware of the risks and that NID officers will be provided with personal protective equipment to ensure they are safe. Recently, an agreement was signed with Wapenamanda and Tambul Nabilia districts to see the rollout of NID in the districts.
When signing the agreement with Wapenamanda and Tambul Nabilia districts yesterday, National Planning Minister Sam Bassel says funds have been made available to ensure people are registered, and both districts have also made funds available to support the project in their district. But there is a need to ensure ward councillors are guided on how to spend the money. The minister said they will ensure the funds are used for ward recorders, councillors and community health workers.
We encourage that the money be used to support again the ward recorder, the councillors administration, the village court magistrate, the village bed attendant, and of course the community health worker. And on top of that, the extra 10,000 that we put will also complement and initiate their programs and projects that they see fit on the ground.
For Wapenamanda District, they have been working together with NID and Enga Provincial Government to roll out this project in their district. According to Wapenamanda MP Rimbing Pato, funds have been made available and they are ready to roll out the project in the district.
So we have already identified the potential the ward officers who will be able to undertake the recording that is necessary. We have provided funding already in our budget, except that that funding could not be released, but I'm going to see to it, and it's going back into the budget again.
But as the country is doing its best to contain the spread of COVID-19, there are also concerns on how the project will be rolled out in the districts. The minister said they are aware of the risks in place and they will ensure NID officers are protected.
There has never been a good time that now that everybody is locked down back in the village, it's a good time to go and get them registered. Yeah. So we will be making sure that we will support the NID work and making sure that all the staff will receive their PPEs and necessary equipments that they need to protect themselves in the front line.
He said NID officers will be deployed to ensure people are registered, but they will be evacuated should there be a case in those districts.
That NID officers are now being deployed, but we understand that we will take preventative measures to ensure that the staff are well protected and they can be withdrawn anytime should there be any reported cases or a shutdown period reported by the controller.
Rayon Lakingu National, MTV News.
A standard operating procedure detailing how COVID-19 deaths will be handled is being finalized for Morobe Province. The procedures will accompany the function of a COVID-19 field hospital, which will be completed by Friday next week. Members of the Provincial Health Authority were taken through the facility being built at the Sir Ignatius Kilage Stadium yesterday.
Doctors and nurses from the Provincial Health Authority were taken on a tour through the Sir Ignatius Kilage Stadium yesterday. This sporting facility is being turned into a 120-bed field hospital for COVID-19 patients. The process of admitting patients will start here at the open-air volleyball court. From this point on, carers are not allowed into the facility. Inside is where up to 100 beds will be placed. The temporary hospital will serve both lay and the rest of the Morobe Province.
And the catering will come in 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch and dinner. Everything will be disposable.
The room upstairs in the stadium is being turned into an intensive care unit. Only 5 patients will have access to ventilators. Authorities are hoping Morobe doesn't get to the stage where people will need ventilators.
This structure over here is becoming the nursing station.
In the event that there are deaths, a temporary morgue will be set up within the stadium area, with the PNG Defence Force handling all cases from there on. Scott Waide, National MTV News, Ley.
Madang Province has no provincial administrator where there is a need for a Section 32 officer. National Executive of the Public Employees Association, Mamose Rep, says it is critical for Madang to have a provincial administrator given the COVID-19 pandemic. The serving provincial administrator's term expired on the 21st of February.
Mr. Paul Ito Adam was appointed by the SOE controller as the Madang provincial coordinator for COVID-19 team and not as the acting provincial administrator. The province needs a Section 32 officer to sign financial papers for monies to be released in order for Madang to carry out the work on COVID-19 in the province.
Madang province administration and the province, we don't have Section 32 officer and we don't have an acting provincial administrator to date. This morning, I had a telephone call with the Secretary DPM, and that's what she told me, and I quote, in Tokpisin, national government is sabe, now ball stadium every below Madang. That's end of quote. Meaning that the issues affecting Madang provincial administration in terms of appointment of acting administrator, national government is sabe finish. But the question is, how long will the national government, by working to appointment? You cannot keep Madang province in suspense like this.
Beavis says since the national government is aware of Madang's situation, they need to act quickly in appointing a provincial administrator or an acting PA for that matter. Mr. Beavis is also calling on Madang Governor to put aside any political differences and start working together for the people of Madang, saying coronavirus is a serious matter and it is wise that all parties must work together in terms of the appointment of the new administrator.
Honorable Peter Yama, to put aside all the differences, whether you don't like Omblaman or you like Omblaman, put him aside all the difference. Now you may all one play interest now in province. Now people Madang. Coronavirus, I mean big plus something. Now me like him governor, Lombel blong him, must walk straight in terms of appointment blong nubla administrator.
Provincial Coordinator for COVID-19 Operation in Madang, Mr. Paul Ito Adam, says without any PA, there is not much work the committee can do in terms of COVID-19 tasks. Mr. Paul Ito Adam says for now, all they can do is plan and wait for the national government to appoint a provincial administrator. Otherwise, Madang has no powers in mobilizing resources from provincial administration and the provincial government to assist COVID-19 in the province.
Without a provincial administrator in Madang is almost impossible because of the question of Section 32 that must be in place. Section 32 is a provincial administrator or acting provincial administrator's responsibility. As Deputy Provincial Administrator and Coordinator for COVID-19 in Madang, I don't have that power.
For now, the provincial coordinator can only use COVID-19 funds that is now available at the Provincial Health Authority Trust account. Mr. Paul Adam Ito says that is all they will be using to try and work with the COVID-19 operation in the province.
Despite that, I need to see the accounts of the COVID-19 set up in the province to see how much money is there, and if there is any money, that is all we will have to try to work with in Madang province.
Meanwhile, all public servants at the provincial headquarters have stopped work and are working from home. Martha Louise, National EMTV News, Madang.
Turning to the region now, Cyclone Harold has carved a trail of devastation across 4 Pacific Island countries, with dozens dead and 200,000 people affected. Emergency supplies from Australia have arrived in Vanuatu, but there are concerns that COVID-19 will further delay aid efforts.
A new day and a renewed relief effort. These emergency supplies are going from Vanuatu's capital, Port Vila, to the country's north, where towns were last week decimated by a tropical cyclone.
There's about 175,000 people that have been affected. That's nearly 3/4 of our population.
Cyclone Harold carved a path of destruction through Vanuatu, Fiji, Tonga and the Solomon Islands. As communications are slowly restored, it's only now a proper picture is emerging. Homes have been flattened, crops destroyed and utilities brought down. In hard-hit areas, there's concern help isn't arriving fast enough.
Almost 6 days that people are still waiting.
This Royal Australian Air Force plane flew to Vanuatu yesterday, but there was no room on the tarmac for it to land, so it was forced home. Today it returned and successfully delivered supplies, including tents, lanterns and hygiene kits. The flight then collected more than 30 Australians who were stuck in the country.
We're just a bit homesick and happy to be finally going home, even if it is to a hotel for 2 weeks.
In Fiji, emergency services are dealing with the cyclone recovery while also trying to contain 16 cases of COVID-19.
Affected Fijians will get the help they badly need.
So far, there are no confirmed cases of coronavirus in Vanuatu, and international aid is being decontaminated before it's delivered.
And if we have a case for COVID in country, it would be a very difficult scenario for us to manage.
The measures to prevent COVID-19 may delay aid reaching those in need, but the alternative would be far worse.
The Asian Development Bank today announced the release of a $6 million grant from its Pacific Disaster Resilience Program Phase 2 to help finance the government of Tonga's response to the deadly virus. A state of emergency was declared in Tonga on 20th March in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The public health emergency and closure of its borders have put pressure on Tonga's health systems and the broader economy. ADB's assistance will support the upgrading of local healthcare facilities, fund logistics to lock down the country's border, and provide relief for the elderly, the unemployed, and vulnerable businesses such as tourism, retail, agriculture, and transport. In more news making headlines overseas, discovery of COVID-19 deaths in nursing home, and a war hero raised millions for health workers. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. In the United States, authorities in New Jersey have discovered 17 bodies inside a makeshift morgue at a nursing home. The victims are among 68 deaths linked to the facility.
A tip led police to a grim discovery at the Andover nursing home in New Jersey, where 17 bodies were found packed into a makeshift morgue. More than 720 deaths in that state are from long-term care facilities. That's 1/5 of New Jersey's total. Tonight, the governor calling the crisis heartbreaking.
I am also outraged that bodies of the dead were allowed to pile up. We can and must do better.
The National Guard is testing nursing home residents in Massachusetts after 500 died there, nearly half of the state's total. In Los Angeles, nurse Sherry Martinez is forced to wear homemade protective gear.
One of the things that I've been doing is getting garbage bags and putting them over my arms.
As the virus rips through nursing homes, the federal government isn't publicly tracking cases, which experts say could help stop the spread. CBS News is keeping our own tally. We've reached out to all 50 states, receiving complete data from 19. Officials confirmed more than 35,000 seniors and staff have tested positive for COVID, and more than 5,700 have died. Also tonight, the USNS Mercy is now changing its mission, sending medics off the ship and into nursing homes.
Many nations in Africa are struggling to test for coronavirus, leading to concerns the problem there is much more severe than the numbers suggest. But one exception is South Africa, which has imposed a nationwide lockdown, but the restrictions have left people in the poorest areas struggling for basic essentials.
Social distancing is just one of many challenges in Alexandra.
We're trying our best to stay indoors, but our biggest problem is we're overcrowded. There are about 6 or 7 people in one room.
We need sanitizers, we need food, we need soap, we need almost everything.
The shantytown is one of Johannesburg's poorest. Authorities have been doing what they can to sanitise the neighbourhood and enforce law and order, but they are not reaching everyone. So community leaders like Linda Twyler are doing what they can to fill the gaps. He fears the coronavirus outbreak will be worse than the AIDS epidemic.
During those years, we were able to control the AIDS epidemic, but now this one seems to be uncontrollable.
I think his fear is not unfounded. But I think part of what is really difficult about coronavirus is that there is this extreme panic and uncertainty about, how this will play out.
Like other parts of the world, the lockdown in South Africa was imposed suddenly, forcing already struggling workers to survive without an income. Essential services like grocery stores are open, but those living in shanty towns often miss out. Experts say there must be a concerted effort to help those most in need.
I really worry about what families are doing at the moment to cope and make ends meet.
And this is what we have to go through every single day, and the wheelchair cannot pass here,
making the fight for survival even harder.
A 99-year-old war veteran who did 100 laps of his garden has raised millions for Britain's health service. Captain Tom Moore undertook the challenge to thank medical staff who treated him for a broken hip. He had hoped to raise £1,000, but turns out he had raised millions.
With a guard of honour provided by members of his old regiment, this remarkable veteran completed the planned 100 laps of his garden in front of the world's media. But Captain Tom Moore has not got the slightest intention of ending his fundraising here, not when his efforts are breaking all records. Captain Tom, I would love to shake your hand. I can't, but I'll salute you instead. £12.5 million this morning and still rising. Can you believe it?
It was only a little family joke, and look how it's gone global now. I mean, it's unbelievable that people are so kind throughout the world as to contribute.
As a man 2 weeks short of his 100th birthday walked, people from 53 countries have donated cash that'll go to the NHS, an achievement a convalescing Boris Johnson has been following. Why weren't you able to take the Prime Minister's call this morning to congratulate
because
you?
There's too many people with cameras keeping me occupied.
Through the day, the tributes have flowed thick and fast.
Captain Tom Moore, you make me want to cry. You have got the hearts of the nation fluttering.
You are a phenomenal human being. What you've managed to do just shows how great humans are.
Bravo, Captain Tom. You are fabulous and an inspiration to us all.
So long as people go on contributing, I'll go on walking. So long as they contribute, I'll walk. Or we'll see who finishes, who gives up first.
And that is why the emergency workers we all clap on a Thursday these days turned up in this small Bedfordshire village this afternoon to applaud a man who's become their hero.
And Chukai Sports is next. Fidelis Tukina joins us now at the sports desk.
Thank you, Helen. NRL PNG finds innovative way to spread awareness during the lockdown, and one Queensland Rules club also motivated to keep fit. Details in Trukai Sports when we come back.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome. The National Rugby League in Papua New Guinea, NRL in PNG, who pride themselves in teaching primary school students health and well-being topics, which coincide with basic skills of rugby league, are now embarking on creating awareness videos for students on the COVID-19 pandemic. NRL in PNG is a partnership program with Papua New Guinea, funded by the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs. Their purpose is to drive key social messaging on gender, health and well-being, using the sport of rugby league at the primary school level. With their programs closed, they are looking to continue once the state of emergency is lifted.
Also, in one of the videos we'll be doing is what we call the League for 5, which are the 5 steps to take to prevent the coronavirus that's going around, which is wash your hands, social distancing, coughing or sneezing into your elbows, to stay at home, and to disinfect or clean surfaces regularly. So we'll also be doing videos on that, and they will be in the flash drives as well. For parents who can have access to Facebook, they can visit our Facebook page, the NRL in PNG League Belong Live. So we will be uploading videos and videos on the League for 5, and also some of the sessions will be put online on our Facebook page as well.
With sports competitions across the globe on hold, teams are innovating to keep fit during the extended off-season. The motivation to stay at the top is even greater for one Queensland Rules club, which is on track to break a record for the longest ever winning streak, having not lost a game in almost 5 years.
Nestled deep in rugby league heartland, the Yeppoon Swans Aussie Rules team is chasing down a record. The club's senior side has won the past 77 games in a row.
It does help us attract players. We don't sort of go chasing players anymore, but players seem to find us.
The team is now close to claiming the sport's longest ever winning streak.
Well, a South Australian country team, Heathfield Aldgate United, has a record of 88 consecutive victories, and they achieved that between 1971 and 1976.
The Queensland team has won every game it's played since mid-2015.
No one gets paid at Yeppoon Swans, so it's all, volunteers and the love of the game.
From a competitive balance point of view, you would like to see, more clubs have the opportunity to, to win and be competitive. But that's nothing against Yeppoon. They've been outstanding.
The winning streak has been forced to an abrupt halt for now, with COVID-19 preventing any games being played. But that hasn't stopped this dedicated group of Swannies back at training with a serious running regime.
We feel if we get a start to play footy again, it's going to happen really quickly. There won't be any time to prepare.
If the season had gone ahead as planned and the Swans continued to win all of their games, they were on track to surpass the record by June. But with the season on hold and 12 straight wins still needed to clinch the title, it'll be tough to take the record this year.
If we get the opportunity to do it, we'd love it, but it's not the end of the world either.
The 44-year-old record destined to stand for a bit longer yet.
And we will have more lockdown exercises in Trukai Sports when we come back. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Staying fit in lockdown is proving a challenge to people across the world. It's forcing gym junkies to go hard and get creative.
Forget the freshman 15.
I want to break free.
Not gaining the COVID-19 means confronting a new set of challenges. Like working out where you are, with what you've got. Exercise in this age of quarantine requires some ingenuity, if not a lot of nerve, and perhaps a few extra tennis balls. Around the world, people are getting it done with a little help from their friends, or in some lucky cases, their best friend. Over the years, British fitness instructor Joe Wicks has tried it all to attract kids to his video workouts. It took him 9 years to gain 800,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel.
And in the past 3 weeks alone, I've now got 2.2 million followers and subscribers to the channel, which is mind-blowing. It's just exponential global growth.
Fortune, it would appear, favors the resourceful and certainly the multitaskers who find ways not just to stick to their routines, but improve upon them as well.
And there we leave Trukai Sports. Helen will join you after the break with the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Mostly fine today, apart from afternoon showers in Port Moresby and Popondetta. Mostly fine weather in Daru and Alotau, and cloudy periods with a shower or two in Kerema. In the Mamasa region, partly cloudy with a shower or two developing in Lae. Mostly fine with afternoon showers developing later in Madang. Mostly fine weather, although partly cloudy in Wewak and cloudy with afternoon showers in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine weather in Lorengau, cloudy with rain showers and thunderstorms in Kokopo, Rabaul, Kimbe, Kavieng and Buka. And in the Highlands region, morning fog clearing, then cloudy with some rain showers right across the region in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kondiawa, Mendi and Wabeg. Forecast for small crabs within the coastal waters of Papua New Guinea for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border to Daru, to Yule Island, to Hood Point. Arama Coast with waters of Samarai Island and eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, with waters of East Cape to Cape Vogel, to Finschhafen, including waters of Finschhafen through Vitiaz and Dampier Straits, to Siasi Islands, to Long Island, and with waters of Long Island to Madang, to Bogia, to Wewak, Aitape to northern PNG Indonesian border, with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and waters of New Ireland and Bougainville, and with waters of East and West New Britain seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. A look at the ocean forecast. The PNG areas in the coral seas light with southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Solomon seas light with southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Bismarck seas light with southeast to southwest winds at 10 to 15 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas light with east to southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by Money Plus, with you always.
And that ends National EMTV News this Saturday, 18th of April 2020. On behalf of the news team, pleasant viewing. Good night.